Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and we're back with another best team comp video, and we have the new 4-star abundance character, Lynx, who is coming out in the second half of version 1.3. Now, Lynx is abundance healer of the quantum typing, and we're going to be covering a lot of team comps for her, and also teaching you how to make 2 free-to-play team comps if you don't want to play any 5 stars or you don't have any good 5 stars. I'll be teaching you exactly how to play totally free-to-play with 2 team comps with Lynx inside, with very good sustain as well. But before we dive into like all the team comps, you see this word aggro here. We first need to explain a bit about her kit so it doesn't get like too confusing for people who didn't really like dig and read like hours and hours in depth of character lore or meta and stuff like that. TLDR, what she does in her overall kit is her skill ability has a selective aggro draw. If the character's class is like preservation or destruction characters, they will have aggro drawn towards them and they have a greater chance of attacking, very similar to likes of like Mark 7, Shield, aggro draw. But if they are not of like preservation or destruction class, then they won't get the additional aggro draw, so it's going to be just like a sustaining ability for them, which is, in my opinion, sometimes you might think it's an enhanced like Mark 7, like better Mark 7, sometimes it's worse depending on how you really are planning to play your teams. That is Lynx's most defining trademark. It will pretty much define how her team comps will be built around, different from Natasha's team compositions. But other than that, she also has one other unique factor that is super good about her, is she has an AoE Dispel and AoE Heal. So when you press the ultimate ability, similar to Natasha's skill ability, it cleanses every single one, and also similar to like Natasha's ultimate ability, it also heals everyone. So AoE cleanse, AoE heal, this is probably what makes Lynx also very unique. No other character in the game currently has an AoE cleanse except for Lynx now in version 1.3. One thing to know, of course, her skill from what we've seen doesn't dispel. So Natasha doesn't mean she's an inferior sustain character, inferior cleanse character. She's still going to put out good amounts of healing, cleansing as well. But just that hers is in her ultimate ability. So if you don't have energy, you probably won't be able to urgently like cleanse or something. But yeah, that's something to know. And now that we have that quick introduction to our overall kit aside, we will go more in depth in build guides once the character goes live closer to the date as well. But for now, let's first talk about the first thing that makes her like the most unique. And this probably will be like 80% of the content. The rest of them is more niche, and some of you might be interested in the rest of them. But aggro teams, what do I mean by aggro teams? Really, it's about the synergy slot here with her skill ability to draw aggro to preservation characters, or for example, like destruction characters. I think Lynx works best with a character like Blade. Blade really likes to take damage, and Lynx doesn't provide a shield, so he loves taking that damage from enemies hitting him. So Lynx, Blade, I think super good combo. Increase aggro because of Blade's destruction abilities as well. It also gives him some sort of sustain here and there. I think it's going to be super solid for Blade. Preservation characters like Fucc also will really love this, although these two don't exactly synergize 100% because she doesn't care like who takes the damage, she just apportions the damage out. Lynx focuses the damage in one, which I guess if you are trying to prevent like team-wide attrition damage that they get chipped down too fast, it could be better to like push it to 1 if there's a lot of single target damage. But I don't think there's like tons of synergy. I think more so if you're looking at like other classes, it'll be more like destruction focused characters. Sorry for moving this, like for example, Ireland, who wants to get to low life, or Imbibitor Lune, who wants a bit more energy restoration. Because other than like just drawing aggro, what aggro redirect is also doing is you are choosing which character you want to funnel your energy into. When enemy hits you, you get energy out of that, and by selecting all of them to hit one particular target, you're actually telling, indirectly saying that this is the character that needs the energy, hit him so that he can get his energy up faster. And characters like Imbibitor Lune definitely do benefit a lot from that. So in my opinion, like the best characters that work with her probably will be characters like these two. But of course, characters like Clara also work really well, just to have an increased aggro draw, so that it always hits Clara more often than not, rather than your Tingyun on the side as well. So, but for the most part, I think these two characters are ones people will be thinking about. Defender type characters, for example like Jett, as well as Fire MC, to just increase the chance of them getting hit. If for example, if you don't land that aggro draw, it might work also, at least to guarantee like pushing it to one side of the map rather than the other. I think could also work, but more so than not, I think destruction characters will see a lot more benefit in that. And that pretty much is like the core difference between Lynx as well as the character that we all are familiar with, Natasha as well, her team comps will really revolve in a little bit more strategic redirection of energy, aggro, and also bringing out the best in destruction characters, which otherwise are kind of muted at this point of time. So I think her arrival is very, very strong. If any of you are looking for future characters like maybe Jingliu, who is an ice destruction character, that is an upcoming character in 1.4 that definitely could consider using it as well. So I'm just going to leave it as a comment because no leak content on this channel. I'm just telling you that that's something that is worth looking out for, especially since her banner is just like directly before Jingliu's lightly banner also. So that is like something nice to do. Pivot and utility slots pretty much are the same. I don't think she's going to be very high in skill point consumption, similar to other healers from what we are seeing so far. And if you're playing with characters like Blade, then of course you wouldn't mind like someone a little bit more skill point hungry, because generally quite neutral, which means you can choose to run even offensive skill point drainers like Qingque. Or if you're riding Imbibitor Lune, you will likely lack a bit of skill points. In that case, your other DPSs could be maybe a E1 Susang. You can put her here, or for example, other skill point net neutral or positive characters like Ireland would also be pretty good if you're running the bottom half with Imbibitor Lune. Utility slot is really wide open depending on really what is your DPS here in the synergy slot and what you're playing here. You could either run buffers, for example like Esta, or you can run defense shredders, for example like Pella. Both I think works pretty well in my opinion. You can go either way depending on your team composition. I guess the question would be like, who will be best with her? I think it's any character that also doesn't want to be affected by debuffs. For example, like Jingyuan, I think could also see quite good value in this slot because she has an AoE cleanse. And if you have AoE cleanse in a kit, that means you are able to also protect someone like Jingyuan in your ultimate ability. The problem with like Natasha's debuff cleanse is it has to be her turn in order for her to cleanse. Same for Luo Ca's cleanse, same for March 7's cleanse, and same for Bronya's cleanse. It has to be their turn, they use a skill to cleanse. The benefit about Lynx is that if Lightning Lord is about to move, you can immediately press her ultimate, cleanse everyone of that, remove one debuff, heal them up, and then for example Jingyuan doesn't get crowd control, he can immediately act with the Lightning Lord so you don't waste any time. That is I think like the key advantage of Lynx, other than the fact that it's of course AoE, and something that is worth considering outside of like these typical aggro teams as well. So that is one of the things I want to talk about. The next team compositions that I want to talk about is the one that everyone's going to be thinking of. This is a mono quantum team. As we know, Lynx is a quantum abundance character, and as of her time of like release, Fucc will be released into the game. In my opinion, like probably the better teams for her, Qingque here is really a flex because 3 limited 5-star characters is very, very expensive. And I know not everyone has the resources to pull all 3 of them. So there is a good option here right now that you can replace any of these 3 options. In my opinion, like all 3 of them can be replaced with Qingque depending on who you do not have. But let me explain what are their strengths in this team composition so you know who is like not as necessary. In my opinion, Lynx is super good sustain. Together with Fucc, you really can tackle most content without a doubt. You have team-wide sustain from her, so you don't even have to care about her ultimate uptime and stuff like that. She has apportionment of damage, which might take a bit of damage, especially in harder floors, but Lynx can like heal it up very quickly as well. She does buff the whole entire team. We talk about Fucc like video already on the channel. Best team comp for Fucc. You can check it out if you're more interested in her directly. But this is more specifically for Lynx, so I'll move on to Zilla. Zilla does a lot of single target damage with a bit of AoE when she eliminates targets. Moves very, very fast. Or again, if you have her, you can put the aggro on her so she doesn't like get aggro drawn onto Zilla, and also your squishy Silver Wolf. Silver Wolf is really meant for the weakness rest shred for quantum, dropping quantum weaknesses on enemies, reducing enemies' defense. In that case, I think out of all 3 of them, probably Silver Wolf is the most critical in mono teams because you want to force the weakness on the enemy. Otherwise, if you don't care too much about like the weakness on the enemy, you could of course run Qingque in. For example, I would say like if you don't have Zilla and you have very high E6 Qingque, you could replace here like this. Will likely run very good as well. And one reason why you want to like put quantum weakness is the quantum set that they have, the 4P set, ignores 20% defense when the enemy has quantum weakness. That what makes this like combo super strong. But other than that, I think it's super good. If you don't have Fucc, maybe you didn't manage to get her on the banner, not to worry. I still think you can put like Qingque here. Also probably going to be pretty good with a lot of damage coming from a lot of sources. The only thing is she drinks a lot of skill points, and Zealer does like to use some skill points also, so you might be struggling with skill points if you run the bottom 4 of these characters. And that is my mono team thoughts. Next up, let's talk about a bit more. We're shying away from like meta, shying away from all those meta talk and all the hardcore stuff. Let's go to something more chill. Some people that just want to enjoy the game, playing with some canon teams. This is the Landau family team, as we all know. So I purposely have like Jett here, Serval here as both of them. Lynx, in my opinion, is a bit of an overkill for sustain because Jett tends to have a lot more sustain than necessary. But for any of you maybe are wanting to run very just wholesome teams, this is an example of one that you can run. Jett here will be more catered for effect, hit rate and damage, I would say, since you have good amounts of sustain coming from Lynx. Aggro draw into him, which means that he takes a lot more guaranteed aggro to have more energy and shielding up the team much better as well. So you don't really need to like stack tons of defense. You can also perhaps go with a bit of effect hit rate on this character too, a bit more speed so you can freeze enemies quite often with his skill as well. Serval is most likely going to be the AoE damage dealer, a lot of damage, especially with higher Eidolons. We've already done like comparison videos with like other 5 stars like Kafka and Jingyuan on the channel. You can check it out if you're interested to see how her capabilities are as a lightning DPS. But last slot I think is quite flexible. For canon reasons, I think Trailblazer makes more sense to fit into this slot because we don't have like Cocolia or anything for lore reasons. But I think physical Trailblazer could be interesting. Lynx can also draw aggro to him. You have a bit of single target AoE damage, burst damage here, which pairs nicely with a double DPS strat as well. Other than that, if you don't care too much about physical Trailblazer, I think other options you can play any like physical DPS like Zealer here. You can play Su Sang, you can play Dan Heng, Yan Qing. All Hun characters most likely will work well, and also upcoming Hun characters like Topaz and Nambi likely will fill this slot quite decently well. Imbibitor Lune also could work if you put him in the first half also. A lot of options here, most likely going to be physical damage or single target rather, and big damage, so you can bypass Serval's main weakness, which is single target damage. And last but not least here, I think the biggest selling point of Lynx, and the reason why a lot of you are also in this video, is maybe you don't have all the meta characters or you're struggling with sustain, and the best part about this character is she helps you build 2 totally free units that are very, very competitive. Previously, the biggest problem that we had, if imagine like Lynx wasn't around, is we only had 3 defensive free units. Like Natasha, we have Mark 7, we have Fire MC. Other than that, it's really like all 5 stars, which not every one of us is lucky or rich enough to get. So with Lynx in the mix, we actually now have 4 defensive characters, which means if the floor is like very, very aggressive, we can always run a double defensive here. And in my opinion, like the combo will be, I think, March 7 and Natasha together to give cleanse, to give aggro redirect to March 7 herself, put her at the corner. And for example here, Fire MC can do the taunting, the shielding, damage reduction. For herself, you can draw the aggro to Fire MC, so you don't really care too much about effect hit rate on harder floors, and you can also heal up the entire party, cleanse when you need to as well. So I think you could run either like, you could run March 7 here also, but I prefer this format. At least you have a bit more control with the shield of where you want to aggro redirect, and you have good sustain in the first slot here. So the first 4 will be more or less like this. And in the back half here is really the question is like, what do you need? If you have enough sustain from Lynx, I could even see myself shifting out from Fire MC, moving into a physical MC DPS role. In that sense, physical MC can draw a bit of aggro, can sustain a bit, with Lynx help get more energy to do burst damage. That's one option, which means that you can run a hybrid DPS, a secondary DPS in the 4th slot with like Dan Heng, Su Sang as a more single target or oriented damage. They are interchangeable depending on, of course, like what floor. For example, if you're facing a lot of physical damage, you can always switch Su Sang up. If you're facing a lot of other typing, you can play him here. In pivot slot, Esther as a free-to-play unit is very solid, or any other Harmony character. Pella, for example, if you have, if it's not just totally free-to-play units, you want to play with other 4-star units, works fine here too. The logic is 2 DPSs. Otherwise, if you're running 2 defensive units, you want to run for more offensive last 2 slots as well. I'm just messing up the whole page here right now. But yeah, the bottom half, I think these 2 will form a good core. 1 AoE damage, 1 single target, and I think you're more or less good to go. Very, very competitive in my opinion. She's really a blessing for any of us small spenders, free to play, don't really have many 5-star sustain units. Super good. I think it's a very, very strong thing. This allows you to save a lot of resource more for characters that you want in future. Maybe like you like DPS characters like Imbibitor Lune, you like Jingyu, you like Topaz and Nambi. all opens up with this character, and very thankful for Hoyoverse for introducing her into the game at this stage of the game as well. And yeah, if you found this video helpful, we do this guide for every single new character that launches. We've already done one for Fucc. If you're interested, you can check it out. Otherwise, we'll also be going to do one for Jingliu once she launches. And stay tuned as well. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.